Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Literary Lord. As planned and as discussed, today we're going to be discussing another poetry from the Class 9 syllabus, which is called After Blenheim, written by Robert Southey. Obviously, one of my favorite poets. Yeah. So, now talking about this poetry, After Blenheim, as by the name you can understand, there is something about Blenheim. So, there was a battle of Blenheim in 1704. In the Spanish War of Succession, allied forces were fighting. So here in this particular poetry, we're going to be discussing the outcome or something. We're going to be talking about the English and the French forces that were fighting, right? So now this poetry, it's not actually that what happened in the war, but it shows us two things about the war. Whenever you just come across with the word war, the very first thing if you're a literary person, the very first thing you imagine is romanticism, roses, guns, beautiful wives waiting for their husbands to come back from the war and take them to the ball. All these romantic and adventurous things about the war. But the second thing which generally does not come to the most of the people, and that's the futility, the death of innocent lives, the losses of mothers, wives, daughters, sons, fathers, their losses, the death of those soldiers, and the futility and destruction, everything which is bad, negative, futile. So these are the two things. Now some poets, they talk about the romanticism and adventure quality of the war. There are very many poets who talk about the futility, destruction of the war. But this particular poetry, as far as I believe, it has showed us both the things which you hardly see anywhere else, and that's the romanticism of the war, in a character who is trying to explain that war is this and that, a great victory and romanticism and adventurism. And at the other side, the innocent minds, they're just confused at why even war happens when it kills a lot many people. So we can see both of the things, alright? Now, without wasting any more time, I would love to start this poetry because, we're gonna have to complete. So, moving on with this poetry, After Blenheim, written by Robert Southey, the very first stanza. It was a summer evening, old Caspar's work was done, and he before his cottage door was sitting in the sun, and by him was spotted on the green his little grandchild Wilhelmine. So, it's a very simple language we all can understand. It was a summer evening, old Caspar, a character of the poetry. It was, his work was done, most probably farming. It was done, and he was sitting in front of the door of his cottage, and in front of him there was a green field, most probably a big garden or a big. It was a green field where his grandchild Wilhelmine was playing. There's another grandchild, Peterkin. Will be introduced with him later on in the second stanza. So this is the very first plot. A summer evening, old Caspar was sitting and resting, his grandchild playing in the green field. Moving on. She saw her brother Peterkin, heavy up with the Peterkin. She saw her brother Peterkin roll something large and round, which he beside the rivulet, and playing there had found. He came to ask what he had found that was so large and so smooth and so round. Now, Wilhelmine, while playing a game, she saw her brother. He found something. Her brother Peterkin. He found something rolling, large and round. In front of the small stream of water, which he beside the rivulet. So rivulet is a small stream of water. And playing they had found, alright, he came to ask what he had found. Now, you see, these children are curious. They find something new, they want to ask the parents, the older people, that, hey, what is this? I'm like, I found it here, what's this? Tell me something about it. So, he came to the old Caspar in order to ask him that, hey, what is this? What have I found? There's something large, smooth, and round. What is that? And coming to this third stanza. Old Caspar took it from the boy, who stood expectant by, and then the old man shook his head, and with a natural sigh, to some poor fellow's skull said, hey, who found the great victory, Now here we are introduced with that romantic and adventuristic feeling of war shown by the thinking, shown as the thinking of the old Peterkin. You know, the old Casper took it from the boy. He took that, strange thing from the boy who was expecting, but he was, he was really curious, expecting some answers, So, and then the old man shook his head. Now he shook his head, remembering things or maybe recalling his words because he's old. And with a natural sigh, there's some poor fellow's skull. It was some soldier's skull who died in that battle of Blenheim, which he's saying who fell in the great victory. So he's saying that war, that battle as a great victory. Obviously, if your country has won, you can say it a great victory. But here it shows us the old Casper's feeling about war. That he does not want to change that tradition of believing wars as something romantic, as something adventuristic, something really awesome. So this has been shown the very first time in this poetry, in the third stanza, with which we have completed the third stanza. And moving on towards the fourth stanza, I find them in the garden. Now the old Casper is telling his grandchildren, I find them in the garden, for there's many here about. And often when I got to plow, the plowshare turns them out. For many thousand men, said he, were slain in the great victory. Again, the great victory. Two things. Now he's telling to his grandchildren that I find them in the garden. There are a lot of them here in the garden. When I find them when I plow them. Now he says, for many thousand men, said he, were slain in the great victory. So at one side, he's telling us that destructive and defective and futile feature of war. That thousands and thousands of soldiers were slain in that victory, like anything, they were slain. But still you're saying it a great victory. After so much of sacrifices of those soldiers and innumerable sacrifices of those innocent lives which we don't even know how many have died, those small children, pregnant women, and many of them, they died. So we can see it. The poet is trying to show us, say both the feelings, how the tradition is to believe wars as romantic things. It might be a romantic thing, but the reality is that it is a really, really destructive thing, futile thing. It is a sad reality. That's what we could say. So he said that for many a thousand men, said he, were slain in the great victory. Again, he's just explaining what he feels. It was a great victory, alright? Now the Peterkin says, now tell us what was all about. Young Peterkin, he cries, and little Wilhelmine looks up with wonder-waiting eyes. Now tell us all about the war and what they fought each other for. Here we see the opinion of those innocent children. Well, the poet is not trying to show us just the opinion of those innocent children, but the right thing, because the children, they're innocent. They don't have those politics. They don't have those things and what to ask and what not to ask. They just ask what they feel, right? So here the poet is trying to show us that, look at this. At one side we say it a great victory. At one side we give lots and lots of reasons for the war. This happened due to this happened, due to this happened. But at the other side, it says that what is even the cause of the war? So the Peterkin is innocent. He's a small kid, He just cries, just tell us everything about the war, alright? We're really curious about it. How it started and what was the reason they fought each other. Why they fought each other. With this stanza also ends up. Now, another one. It was the English, Casper cried, who put the French to rout. But what they fought each other for I could not well make out. But everybody said, quoth he, that was a famous victory. Now again we see, now here, the old Casper, he's explaining a little bit about the war to his grandchildren. That it was the English and the French with whom this battle happened, and the French got defeated and the English won. But the reason of the war I actually do not know, but as it is said, or we could say a traditionality, as it is said, it was a famous victory. So here we see that the careless approach of old Casper, and not only that careless approach, but the sort of a clinch or sort of a tradition of belief, as I said earlier, about the wars. People hardly wanna think about the futility, the destruction, and the death of all those innocent lives, and all those bad things about the war. People just hardly wanna think about it. They just say it's all right. War. It happened because of this, and oh yeah, we defeated them. Yeah, our army won. It may be something or a moment of happiness that we won, but at the same time, there were losses of lives from both the sides. All right, when a war happens, losses do happen from both the sides. Remember that. So it's not a one on one thing. No, it's something where where deaths happen, not one or two, but in masses. Not just the soldiers, but even normal people. Not just the adults, but even small children as well. Not just men, but even women, and even pregnant women. So such things, they do happen in war. But people hardly want to think about it because that's something which puts pressure to the heart. We don't want that. We want easiness, right? We want that comfort zone, right? We don't want to contemplate about it. And that's the point that's trying to tell us. Look at old Casper. He's saying that such things happen, but the cause, I don't know. But it said it was a famous victory, right? Moving on. Now Peterkin is telling some furthermore stories about the war. He's saying, my father lived at Blenheim then, young little stream-hard boy. They burnt his dwelling to the ground, and he was forced to fly. So with his wife and child he fled, nor had he where to rest his head. Now again he is telling us the destructive and the sad reality of the war, which even happened with his own family, his father. He lived at Blenheim, but due to war, people, or maybe the soldiers, they just burned his house. He had to fly away. He had to run away with his family. There were no place to rest or to sleep, no food to eat, no water to drink. Look at that sad and cruel and bitter reality of the war. The old Peterkin himself has suffered it, but he still is believing it was a great victory. It must have been a great victory, but the cost of that great victory was also great, alright? Never forget that. Now moving on, with fire and sword the country round was wasted far and wide, and many a childing mother then and newborn baby died. But things like that, must be at every famous victory. Look at the behavior. Look at the mentality of old Casper. He himself suffered, and not just him. Now he is further telling us the more destructions led by that war, that there was fire all over there in the country. The swords were there. People were getting slashed. Not just men, but even women. Not just adults, but even children's. And the pregnant woman and the newly born baby, they just died due to what? Due to hunger, due to bullets, due to swords, due to fire, due to destruction, due to a wall collapsing, and whatever you can imagine, they died. They suffered. Many slept hungry, but they never got up because they were bombarded, because there were slashes, and even the hunger was so high that it took their souls away from their bones and flesh. He's saying all these sad realities, but still he's not willing to believe and accept them. He's just saying these things are normal to be in a famous victory. And that's what lots of people do think. Even some top-notch authorities, before committing war, before starting such a thing, such a cruel and such a bloody thing, if they think about it, at least there will be some discussions on the table rather than bullets in the field. Moving on towards another stanza. They say it was a shocking sight after the field won, for many thousand bodies here lay rotting in the sun. But things like that, must be after a famous victory. Again, more destruction about the war. They say it was a shocking sight. It was so shocking to see all such things happening, because this is not a common thing, alright? The whole field was covered with slain soldiers, rotting on the ground like some fish, like something which is not from the human. It's just like totally different, rotting like anything, like I don't even have words, right? If you imagine it, your soul will get shaken up. Lots and lots of soldiers covering the whole land with their blood and with their bodies. They're dead. Their bodies are they're just getting rotten, right? Bacteria are coming in the body, insects and rodents, they're coming. Can you believe it? These living human beings meeting so much deep, dark realities. But still, someone is saying that these things are necessary to be happened in such a famous victory. Moving on towards the second last stanza. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough won, and our good Prince Eugene. White was a very wicked thing. Now, repeat again. Now, up till now, I'll tell you later on. White was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. Now, again, the very first two lines are from the old Peterkin. He says, great praise the Duke of Marlborough won, and our good Prince Eugene. So these must be the top-notch authorities or the leaders of the war who led England won from the France. So he's praising them, remembering them and praising them. But then Wilhelmine asks, what was a very wicked thing? Why it even happened? I mean, like, it should not even happen when such destructive things they do happen. Why it even happened? Why the people let it happen? Why all those authorities and top-notch leaders, they just let it happen? Why? Then they knew about it. Look at the innocent side, or we could say the purity, the pure emotions and the pure thinking. It asks why it's happening. When you commit something wrong, when you are about to steal something, or when you're about to punch someone or do something wrong, there are two sides. And the evil side say, do it, man, just do it. But the innocent side, the angel side, says, why are you doing it? Can you talk to yourself? Your conscience, it speaks. Stop it, don't do it. Why are you doing it? So here we can see, it's not just the voice of Wilhelmine or a small, innocent child. That's a voice of innocence. It might be your conscience, consciousness. Why it even happened? Why such a wicked thing happened, which killed and which brought lots of destructions, bloods and deaths? Why? She asked, why it happened? Such a wicked thing. Again, the old Casper said, nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. It was not a wicked thing. It was a famous victory. Now he's trying to impose his belief, trying to teach his belief that it's something, it's a famous victory. It's something natural which happens in the war. There's no problem if it happens. So again, the two sort of thinkings, the romanticism and adventurism of war, and even the destructions and the defects of war. We can see here, even in this stanza, including in the whole poetry. Moving on towards the last stanza. And everybody praised the Duke who this great fight did win. But what good came of it at last? Quoth little Peterkin, why that I cannot tell, said he, but was a famous victory. So he says that again, and everybody praised the Duke who this great fight did win. Again, the old Casper says that. Again, he praises and he says that everybody praised the Duke. Because of him, we won the fight. A people, a country, they won the fight. Now with the Peterkin, again that innocent side. But what good came of it at last? Quoth little Peterkin. So he asked, what what good came of it? What was that good thing which came from it? Why, like you say, you don't know why it happened or why it even existed, but what we gained from that war? What's that single positive thing we got from that war? After all you just have told us, all these deaths, all these destructions, burning of the houses, people getting homeless, people migrating to different places, they're getting foodless, they get dying. What's that one simple gain what we got from that war? So he asks that, but what good came of it at last? Quoth little Peterkin. Last two lines again by the old Casper. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but was a famous victory. Is it why or what good came from it? I cannot tell that, I really don't know that, but it was a famous victory. So as you can see, that he is, so the two different things, the adventurism and the destruction. So these two things has been shown in this poetry, but this is the very last stanza. We have just completed this whole poetry after Blenheim. Hope you guys like this video, and this video is a really great piece of knowledge for you. Hope this is. So if you like this, thank you so much for being such a patient listener, and stay tuned for more upcoming videos. Love you all.